Welcome back. New polling from the New York Times finds 25% of voters view President Biden's years in office as mostly good for the United States. A full 42% remember President Trump's time in the Oval Office as good for America. Joining me now is former 2024 presidential candidate, entrepreneur, and author of Capitalist Punishment: How Wall Street is Using Your Money to Create a Country You Did Not Vote For. Vivek Ramaswamy back with me. Vivek, great to see you. Thanks very much for being here this morning. How would you assess the state of the race today?
Look, I think this is a unique opportunity that Americans have. It's a once-in-a-century opportunity, Maria, where you get two presidents whose track records you get to compare side by side. Usually, if you have a challenger to an incumbent like Biden, you're offered hopes and dreams. That's not what they get this time. You got 4 years of Trump with sealed borders, a growing economy, and a strong standing on the global stage. 4 years of Biden, you have rising prices, rising interest rates with flat wages, an open border like we've never seen in our nation's history, and we can literally see it marching our way towards major conflict because of America's weakness. The choice is clear. Voters get to make that choice, and I think that's becoming crystal clear, which is why we're seeing President Trump in the pole position.
Well, I mean, a group of major news outlets, including Fox News, CNN, ABC, CBS, are urging the presidential candidates to publicly commit to a debate for the 2024 election. In a joint statement, they write this: if there is one thing Americans can agree on during this polarized time, it is that the stakes of this election are exceptionally high. There is simply no substitute for the candidates debating with each other and before the American people their visions for the future of our nation. Vivek, I mean, this is no secret. We all want a debate before a presidential election. But will the administration commit to putting Biden up on stage with President Trump next to each other before September, when many people will have already voted?
This is what American politics is supposed to be about at its best, Maria, is each party puts up its best candidate. They have competing visions they offer to the American people, and the American people get to choose their presidency. That was what would make our own founding fathers proud. And yet here's where we are today. A nightmare of that vision, where the party in power is trying to use prosecutorial power to prosecute its political opponents in the middle of an election, even trying to remove one of their candidates from the ballot, threatening tech companies to silence the speech of political opponents. That is a nightmare vision of what our founding fathers set into motion. And so both candidates and both parties have an opportunity to unite this country. President Biden needs to show up to debate. I will call on him to publicly come out of his cave and to share with the American people what is his vision for this country, so they can compare that to Donald Trump's and make their choice in a free and fair election. That's what America is supposed to be about, and that's what we need to revive in this election. Well,
will President Trump be able to handle the campaigning along with all of these indictments? I mean, jury selection for the former president, this criminal trial. I don't know how you get to criminal trial by paying off this porn star. Anyway, it's going to begin today in Manhattan. Vivek, your thoughts as jury selection begins?
Look, is President Trump going to be able to handle it? Yes. Is this what should be happening during a presidential election? Absolutely not. And this Manhattan DA trial, led by Alvin Bragg's prosecution, reveals the farce of all of these prosecutions. Think about the legal theory underlying this case. It is broken to its core. On one hand, they say that he should have used campaign funds to make this hush money payment. On the other hand, had he used campaign funds, that actually would have been more likely a case for legal violation. So they were going to get him going, or they were going to get him coming. You've got former FEC commissioners like Bradley Smith who have criticized the merits of this case. This is prosecutorial abuse to its core. And that being said, Maria, let's move to the positive. I think 4 more years of Trump, I think we'll be able to reunite this country and lead us out of this terrible period we have been in. America is not a country where you see the party in power using prosecutorial force against its opponents. That's the stuff of banana republics. And yet that's where we are today, but we don't have to stay there. And I do think that after he wins, Donald Trump is going to lead us to, dare I say it, unite this country in a way that people across America are hungry for. And I think that's why people are rallying against these prosecutions, as unjust as they are.
Vivek, what cabinet position are you expecting to get in a Trump administration?
Look, I'm looking to serve this country in whatever way I can. It would be my honor to serve alongside President Trump. I think that the main focus, to be honest with you now, Maria, is making sure that he's elected. Not just that he's elected by a little bit, but elected by a landslide. I think this can be a 1984, 1980 Ronald Reagan-style landslide. And you know what? A landslide minus some shenanigans is still going to be a decisive victory.
Well,
that's what we need to unite this country.
Okay,
and that's what we need for a mandate to govern. And so I'm going to be helpful as best I can.
And you were very popular with young people. Will you be able to get those young people to vote for Trump while Joe Biden is promising those same groups that he's going to forgive their student loan?
Look, I think that Joe Biden's trying the model of bribery. President Trump's trying the model of actually offering a vision for where we're heading as a country, reviving America's greatness. Success will be our vengeance. I think it's a beautiful part of President Trump's message this year in particular. I saw young people across this country in the campaign, Maria, and the reason that many of them interfaced with my campaign and supported us is that they're hungry for an alternative vision. The left has fed them race and gender and wokeism and transgenderism. We as conservatives have a chance to step up and say, here's what we stand for. The individual, the family, the nation, that I'm a citizen of this nation, the United States of America. And young people are starving for that sense of identity and purpose. And Donald Trump's vision to revive the greatness of this country. And I believe that's what the Republican Party stands for all the way down. I think will propel major victories, not just in the White House, but where we need them in Congress and in the Senate and down ballot as well. Right. And I believe if we stay on track, that's exactly what we're going to get.
Vivek, it's great to have you this morning. We so appreciate it, and we'll be watching your work. Vivek Ramaswamy joining us this morning.